Okay, so to show you where everything is. So
Oh,
this
maybe
is,
something. Oh, sorry. No, I was just going to ask as well, are you also accessible over WhatsApp like the other OTs?
I'm not generally accessible over WhatsApp because I actually have my phone off most of the day because I'm in lectures nearly all the
Oh,
time.
okay. Okay.
But for emergencies, I can give you guys my WhatsApp number.
Yeah, if
So if there
possible,
is
if you're
something
comfortable.
urgent.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
So this is homepage. Now, over here, we've got plagiarism. So this is very, very useful. So this is a little breakdown of everything you need, just a quick overview of everything you need to know. What is a direct quote? What is a paraphrase? Why do we quote? What sources do you use? What you need. So when you are doing research and they say take down all the details, what do they actually mean? This is what you have to take down. And then if you are using an electronic source, we say, okay, take down everything you need and make sure you get all the details for your reference. This is what you need to get. And then referencing systems, and then some more reminders. So that's all on the front page. So you can always just go for a quick overview over there. These are the announcements, so more announcements. That's the one for today. That's what that will look like. Now I'm just going to go to student view. So this is what it will look like on yours. So exact same front page. So module information, there's a lot here. So if you want to get an overview of the module, this will open. So we give you an overview of what you need to know. Learning Unit 2, the outcomes, etc. Then we have the calendar. This is really, really fantastic. So today you've got live Collab. It's got the link there. It tells you what's going to happen. Tomorrow there is the suggested due date for us task 1. It's suggested. It's not, cut and
When
set in
is there?
stone.
I believe that assessment guideline tells us when all the iStock should be due, right?
It's got the suggested due date. So I am going to get to ask tasks and I'll explain all that in detail
Okay.
in a moment. So yeah, that is on the semester planner. So going down, we have learning units. Now, this is where all of the good stuff happens. So learning unit 1, communication theory. So first of all, we've got your learning outcomes. So by the end of this learning unit, if you want to know, okay, I've gone through it all, but do I understand it? What do I need to know? You come back to the learning unit objectives and you go, can I explain the nature of communication? Can I discuss the relationships between the components of the communication process using communication models, examples, and scenarios? Can I discuss the barriers to effective communication? So if you can answer yes to all of these, that's perfect. You are spot on. You know everything you need to know. So theme 1, there's a little video for you. Now, these are the think about questions. So this is, you read these and you watch the video and you come back and you don't have to answer them like on a piece of paper or anything. what you're here to do is you're here to think about these questions. It's a way to frame everything you're going to learn. So then you go on to the next page. Now this is an activity. So you click to launch here, and then you go on and it will show you what to do. Okay, so let's go back.
And those activities, do they fall part of your ICE tasks or?
No, these are not for your ICE tasks. These are activities that are really there to help you structure your learning. So sometimes there are a lot of activities, in which case I will tell you which ones are the most important ones. So in this case, both the activities for for theme 1 and theme 2 are actually quite important. So I've asked you to do both of those. And then this one for theme 3, there's only one activity, and that's an important one. But as we go on, some learning units might have 3 or 4 activities, in which case I will tell you which 1 or 2 to focus on. So they're not compulsory, they're just highly recommended. So once again, you might have looked at the learning unit objectives and gone, okay, discuss the nature of communication. That sounds like fun. So now it's got asking you to think, what do you mean when we refer to the nature of something? And then you can click on it and it gives you the definition. So it's a very nice interactive tool. So there's some nice extra resources there. It tells you what to study and what chapter to study, and then you can move on. So there again, what is a model? So all of these things here, you study the following components of the book. Okay, so it tells you you only need to look at those. So those are your learning units. And then obviously when you want to go to learning unit 3, 4, 5. Now, this over here, more resources. This is where I put everything on from my side. So at the moment, admin is the important one. So first we've got your semester planner. So this is where I break down for you what you really should be getting through every week. And this will help you keep on track. So this is not prescriptive. This is not compulsory. You have to follow this. What this is, you can, if you follow this, this will really help you make sure that you get through all the work before you get to each assessment. What you really don't want to happen is you get to the last 3 or 4 weeks of the term and you suddenly realize you've got a huge amount of work to get through. That's just going to cause you to be really stressed out. So you really don't want to put yourself in that position. But I mean, life happens. We all know life happens. So some weeks the wheels are just going to fall off and you might not be able to get through everything. In which case, the next week you try to catch up as much as you can to make sure you don't fall behind. So some weeks you're also going to be way ahead and you've got some spare time, then you can move on ahead and work through the next section so that you've got some time to play around with later in the semester. So last week was learning unit 1, theme 1, the communication process. Those are the 2 activities. This week we have our Collab, learning units 1, theme 2. Next week, learning unit 1, theme 3. We've got a Collab over there on the 30th of March. Next Collab on the 13th of March. and then the NSS. Now, the NSS, that is the National Support Session. So this is a very, very important session. I'm not the one who runs it. That is the lead OT for all of APCT. So all the APCT groups will be sent a link and then afterwards a recording, but it's really important to join that session if you possibly can, because Brenda will be going through the assignment. Now, what that means is she is going to be going through the questions and checking to make sure that everyone understands the questions, everyone is on the same page in terms of what the questions require from you. So it is only 2 weeks before the due date, so obviously you will have started before then. So you will have work to bring to that session. What the session really is about is double checking, are you on the right page? Now that you've started working through the assignment and there's someone there to really go through it, explain things to you, do you have any questions? So that is the point of the national support session, is just to make sure everyone's on the same page with the assignment, everyone understands, everyone's on track. So those are really important. And then your assignment is due on the 5th of May. And then the rest of your collabs, that is the NSS for the summative assessment. Okay. So obviously I'll be putting out reminders every time we have a collab, every time there is an NSS, there will definitely be all of those reminders. Okay, so seeing as you are here, and I just want to double check with you, is there anything else you would like from the semester planner?
From my side, I don't think so. I think I'm quite happy with it.
Okay, great. Because, you know, the reason why I ask is that this is for you guys. So if there's something that you guys would find useful or helpful, I would like to know so that I can help you guys. Then the assessment structure. This is all in the module outline, but I just wanted to make a pretty version for you guys. So the ICE tasks are 10%. So I will show you where the ICE tasks are. They're under more resources, ICE tasks. Now, I have 2 up at the moment. The reason I haven't put the others up yet is because we haven't gotten that far, but I am going to put them up soon. So at the moment, there are 2 available. So ICE task 1, it is a test. The test has a time limit of 1 hour. It will not take you even close to 1 hour. Okay, I just put it there so you don't have any real time pressure. The test will save and be submitted automatically when the time expires. So if you run out, you know, and go to the shops, don't worry about the timer. It will submit it automatically.
Okay,
So,
and these tests, just for like for interest sake, I haven't obviously completed one of them, but are they like, how are they structured? Is it where you like, I assume it's not essay based or anything, but it's like, do you like choose between things, or how do they go about it?
So these tests can actually be pretty much anything. You know, the test tool that we use does have scope for us to set any questions. The sort of questions I've set are multiple choice, true or false, matching the column, filling in the blanks. So it's fairly straightforward, let me put it that way.
Okay. No, I was just very curious because no one has mentioned really like what you can expect from the ICE task itself. So That's why I was curious.
So in my case, because I can't speak for any other tutor because we all set our own ask tasks, which is part of the learning experience because it's nice to have variety. So I set some tests, and then I generally also use some of the activities. So what a lot of tutors will do is they will choose, for example, business reports. So they might choose this one, and then they will label it as Ask Task 4 or Ask Task 6. And then they will go to more resources, put it under the Ask Tasks, and it will come up here, Ask Task 6, and that will be the Ask Task. So they really can be sort of anything. This is where all of the tutors put their ask tasks. So every module under more resources, you'll have things like the semester planner, the module outline, assessment structure, things like that. You'll also have the link to the videos, the Collab link. You will definitely have the ask activities here. So with the ask activities, now with this one, the suggested due date is the 17th of March. That is a suggestion. Now, there is going to be a final due date for all of the ask tasks. It's likely to be around the second week of May, but I will let you know well in advance. So when I know, because I'm given a final due date to submit the results for all my ask tasks. So I don't like to give you a final due date until I know when my final due date is, because I like to give you guys as much time as possible to do them in. So I like to push it as far as I can. So I will communicate well in advance. This is the final due date. After that, the next day, I have to make sure it's all collated and I have to send it into the results center because that's my due date. So these due dates are really just suggestions. For this one, the pass mark is 70 out of 100. Don't worry, just because it's out of 100 does not mean it is a large test. I think this one is 6 marks. I like to do it out of 100 because it makes sense percentage-wise. So when we say the pass mark for us activities, these are considered participation activities. So you have to complete them to an acceptable standard in order for it to be considered complete and for you to get full marks for the ask task. So I've looked at the test I've set and I feel it's pretty straightforward. You can find all the answers you want on BC Learn and in the textbook. So if you just take some time going through it, I feel there's absolutely no reason why people shouldn't get 100%. But to be generous, I've said as long as you get above 70%, as long as you get above 70, that's fine. I will consider it complete and you will get 100% for Ask Task 1. I hope that makes sense. Okay, great. So there's Ask Task 2. Ask Tasks 3 and 4 will be up very soon, probably by the end of this week, and then next week I'll put up 5 and 6. So then with the ask tasks, and I'm sure you know you've had this with all of the modules, so you have to submit a minimum of 4. So I will put up 6. Some tutors put up 8. Some put up, I think 8 is the maximum people put up. But you have to complete 4. So each one of those, you complete it to we will tell you what we're expecting. As long as you complete it, then you get 2.5%, and that all adds up to 10%, which is a lot. So in the grand scheme of things, that 10% makes a huge difference to your mark. So you really want that. Okay, and there's just a little bit more for you. All ASTOS have to be submitted through VC Learn. Okay, so you have one assignment. That's the first one due on the 5th of May. And then you have a summative assignment, which is due, I stand to be corrected, I'm 90% sure it's on the 12th of June. So, oh yes, there it is. Okay, but just keep an eye on your announcements and emails. It's highly, highly unlikely anything will change, but let's say the week before the assignment is due, I don't know, ESCOM collapses completely and we're all thrown into darkness. You know, Varsity College might say, okay, you can have an extra day to complete your assignment. But these things don't really change. It's just in case of emergency, we have to say, just keep an eye out for changes to the past document. So you have to make sure that you've gone through learning units 1 to 3, and the due date. When we say the due date, what we actually mean is the cutoff date. So the cutoff date and time is the 5th of May at 9 o'clock. Now, I have to warn you guys about this because this is very important. When we say cut off, and this is a national thing, it's not a personal thing, it's not something I just do in my course, or it's not something that's just for the online courses. What we mean is the link officially closes. And then if you submit, even if it's 30 seconds after 9 p.m., it will go through, but it will be flagged as late. And if anything is flagged as late, I'm not actually allowed to mark it. So you will then have to make a submission to the Student Hub, make an application to see if you can resubmit. So if something goes drastically wrong and you submit like 30 seconds late, immediately take a screenshot, immediately put in an application to the hub. But, and I know Brenda will talk about this, and I will talk about this again later in the semester, it's really important that you submit your assignments well in time. You don't want to be in a situation where you are frantically trying to submit an assignment and the internet's slow, or suddenly there's load shedding, or suddenly the system crashes, or your laptop breaks. So my suggestion is the very latest you should be aiming for is 9 o'clock in the morning, because if anything goes wrong, you've still got a little bit of time to try and problem solve. But please just remember for all your submissions that you really don't want to be late at all, because you don't want to leave it to the last minute, because once that thing hits 9 o'clock, that's it. That's cut off. Okay, so that's the same thing, and it's the same thing for your summative assignment. So it isn't a common thing for people to have problems, but I'm just forewarning you that please just make sure that you submit early enough that if something goes wrong, if there is load shedding, you're like, okay, the power come back in 2 hours, I can submit then, I'll still have 6 hours. Or if there's suddenly a widespread power outage, you can go to a restaurant that has free Wi-Fi, or you can get to the nearest VC campus, which always has generators and will always have Wi-Fi, and you can use their computers. So the other very, very important thing, all tasks must be submitted on VC Learn. So no other forms of submission will be accepted. So if there's a problem and you can't get through, you can't email your assessments through because the tutors aren't allowed to accept that. So that's a very, very important one. That's for us, tasks, assignments, take-home exams, everything. So this is where I ask, do you have any questions about the assessment structure? Okay, so that all makes sense. That's great. Under videos. Okay, so that is the link to the YouTube channel. So for this, I have two different courses. I've got my APCT and my FDEN. So you will go to, the easiest is to go to playlists. Don't look at that. I don't know why that's up there. So you will go to Introduction to APCT. So we have Welcome to APCT and APCT VC Learn Resources Finding Your Way Around.
I don't think I see that. I still see your APCT channel view, the student preview.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, hold on. Let me just sharing the wrong application screen. Hi guys. Sorry. Okay. So as I say, please don't look at that first one. I don't know why that's up there. Shouldn't be. So those are the videos. Playlists just make it easier. So that's the introduction to APCT. I'm going to change that. So it says APCT Learning Unit 1. At the moment, we've got the 7 major points of communication. And that also needs to change, sorry. And the 9 parts of communication. Okay, so they are short. You guys might realize that I do tend to talk a lot. So I have tried my very best to keep them short. They're supposed to be 5 to 7 minutes. I did not manage that, but I will try in the future. Okay, so those are links directly, and then there will also be the link to the recordings. Collab link, this is the one I keep sending you, so you click there and you join. Additional resources, okay, so that is an article I found, which is quite nice, so you can look there at that. I'll put some more resources up as we go, just some interesting things. Okay, so referencing guide, I've put it up here. It's also on the student portal and under the library section. That's the referencing policy and the module outline. So now we've got your quick links. So these go to the activities. So activity 1.2.2 is a blog. So these are the same activities that you find under the learning units. Okay. Avnika, am I saying your name correctly? Okay, great. So yes, there are. And I am going to go through that in a moment when we get to the module outline. Okay. So I'll just finish up here quickly. So those are the quick links. That's Blackboard Collaborate. And then this is where you submit your assignments. So before the link opens, you have to do this. So you have to click on this, and then you will begin, and you have to read through all of this. Okay, it's not a long one, but just so you are completely aware what you are agreeing to, what you are saying when you say, okay, I agree, I followed all the conventions, I've followed all the assessment rules, I know that I've done everything right. Then you can click I accept, save and submit. Okay, so before you can submit an assessment, you have to do that. Now, that link will open. You can write your submission, but the easiest is to browse local files, and then it will, you can attach your file there. PDF. PDF is the format that we asked for. You click I agree to that. You don't need to add any comments, but I suppose if you want to, and then you submit. And then find an assessment. This is a new one. So if you haven't found your assessments yet, it will take you. Now, your view will look different to mine. So, you know, I'm not actually even going to share my application screen there because it's just going to look strange to you because it's different. So that is VC Learn. So as I say, module information, whole lot of interesting stuff here. And this is the link to the online version of the book, full PDF text. So if you haven't gotten your book yet, this is where you will go. It takes a while to load. And then we start with chapter 2, chapter 3. What you will note when we look at the module outline now is that you are not going to go through all the chapters in this order. You're not going to use all the chapters, and it's not going to be in this order. For example, I can tell you right now, we do not look at chapter 15. We don't look at chapter 11. And the reason for that is this is a book on communication in the business world that is available. And then universities take this book and use it when they are building a course. So this book will be used by a whole lot of different varsities for a whole lot of different courses. So it's not specifically written just for this course, if that makes sense. So that is under module information. And there is some recommended reading, and you can download the module outline. So the module outline has your module pacer and assessment information. I've put that under more resources for you. Okay. Do you guys have any questions about VC Learn, what's on VC Learn, how to navigate VC Learn, anything like that?
Good from my side. I think I have a better understanding of it now.
Okay, great. So, sorry, one other thing I do just want to point out is the announcements. Now, sometimes I set up my announcements in advance to make sure that they do go out on the day. But what happens then is it doesn't actually get emailed to you, I don't think. So I just want to show you, sorry, courses. So please do just check your announcements, sort of, you know, whenever you log on, just come and check here to see. So every Monday, you will get an announcement. Excuse me, let's find it. So you will get a absolute minimum, you will get sort of 2 announcements from me a week. Normally more, because as I said, I do like to talk quite a bit. So every week on the Monday, you will get what you will have to work through. So this is essentially what is on the semester planner, but just to make sure everyone is on track, you will be working on Learning Unit 1, Theme 2, read through Chapter 3 of the textbook and work through these 2 activities. They're built on each other, so please work through both of them. Okay, on Wednesday, the 16th of March, we'll have our first online Collab from 6 to 7. That's where you can find it, and I've put the class link. This one on Wednesday was what you can find under more resources. Collab tonight, that was sent this morning. Don't worry about those, that's nothing new. This was also sent on Monday. I don't know why I was putting them out of chronological order, but that's explaining the ICE tasks, and that is one that I've just sent out now at the start of the Collab. So just to show you where the communication is happening, it's happening under the announcements. Okay, so guys, please feel free at any time to jump in with a question. This is a very small class, so you don't even have to put up your hand. You can actually just unmute and ask. Please feel free. This is your time with a real life human to ask questions, and anything you're unsure about, this is the time to get a in real time answer. So, applied communication techniques, table of contents, introduction, lots of important information here. Using this module outline, so this is a support. So some more information on VC Learn. Then what do all the icons mean? Module resources. So it's quite nice. They've got the link to the online version of the book. So the module purpose and the module outcomes. So by the end of this, while we're doing this course, so by the end of it, you can apply various communication theories in given organizational and academic contexts. Then you can analyze various communication practices in given organizational and academic contexts, and you can compile professional documents. So that's what you need to do at the end. That is your assessment structure. Now, guys, it says approximately 10 hours. For everyone, that is going to be very different. Now, if you spent 6 hours working on it, doesn't mean that you haven't done enough. Really, it's as a guide. So if you did it in 1 hour, you need to be aware that you did it in 1/10 of the time the average student would do it in. That is a very, very red flag that you haven't completed it fully. That either you've missed questions or you haven't included enough detail, something has gone awry. If you are spending 20 hours on it, once again, there's likely been a misunderstanding, and you're going to have to go back and look at it again to see what you need to change. And then same thing for the assessment project. Okay, so this gives you some guidelines and some preparation hints. That's great. Module pacer. So learning unit 1, it tells you how long you're going to spend. You're a distance student, so academic weeks 1 to 3. So you work through learning unit 1, themes are learned, together with the relevant sections of your prescribed material to ensure that you're working towards mastering the objectives for this learning unit. So these are your learning outcomes. So if you can do this by the end of the theme 1, so by the end of the first week, if you can explain the nature of communication, discuss this, then you are good. You have done everything you need to do. So theme 2, theme 3, and then it goes on for learning unit 2 all the way to learning unit 5. I'm not going to go through all that, but on page 21 and 22, we have got this very useful glossary. So if you're not sure what a dyad is, what a stakeholder is, what subjective is, it's all over here. So that is the module outline. Okay. So then the next thing I have to ask, oh, sorry. I don't think I completely answered that question about the themes and pages. So we go back to the assessments. So it's learning units 1 to 3. So you'll go through this. Learning units 1 to 3, you will need to access the internet. Now, learning unit 1, you'll need to be going through textbook chapter 2, textbook chapter 3, textbook chapter 6. Now, I want to remind you once again that on VC Learn, when you go to your learning units, it will tell you very specifically what parts of the textbook, what parts of the chapter you need to go through. So for learning unit theme 1, okay, that's your first activity, defining communication, study the full section titled Defining Communication in chapter 2 of your textbook. So if you're using VC Learn, what's actually happening is you're saving yourself quite a bit of time. So instead of going through all of chapter 2, defining communication, components of communication in chapter 2, and then noise as a component of the communication process will be covered in more detail in the next section. And then barriers to communication, that's a nice video. Study the following sections under chapter 2. So with all of these things, if you go to VC Learn and you look at it properly, they do show you how to sort of streamline your studying. Also, have you managed to find your assignments yet? Okay, great. So let me just pull it up. So now that it's decided to load, you've got your instructions. That's the referencing rubric. Please make sure you go over this very carefully because this is very important. Oops, sorry. I don't know if it's my computer or my mouse seems to have decided the day has ended and it's not working anymore. Okay, so this is where you want to really focus. You should be able to explain communication theory and interpersonal and intercultural communication. So that's Learning Unit 1. Identify the purpose and audience of communication and apply style and tone accordingly. Learning Unit 2. Write a professional email. That's Learning Unit 3. And explain and apply the appropriate use of open, closed, and follow-up questions in interviews. That's Learning Unit 3. So there are 4 questions. Okay, question 3 and 4 are related to the job advertisement in question 3. So with this, you have is job advertisement in question 3, and then question 4 is obviously a follow-on from that. So this needs to be write your answers in appropriate style and tone to maintain the level of professionalism that this communication warrants. Referencing is required throughout. Please make sure you pay careful attention to referencing all sources you have used to help support your answers, both in text, within each question response, and in one complete reference list at the end of your assignment. So Brenda will go through all of this, I'm sure, in the NSS session, but just to reiterate, you don't put a reference list after each question, you put it at the very end of your assignment. So we will use the marking rubrics to evaluate the quality of your responses. We won't mark beyond the maximum word count, so that's very important. So those are your instructions and these are your questions. So you study the image below and that's the scenario, and we have some questions here. So please notice that it's not just identify, it's justify, identify, and explain. So for 9 marks, you're only going to get 1 mark for identifying each barrier, and then the other 2 marks for explaining. So please do make sure that you are checking out those guidelines. And then this is what we will use to mark that. Okay. So I hope that answers your question about the assignment. I'm sorry I can't give you more specified than that. It isn't more specified than that. So the next thing I want to ask, is there anything on VC Learn or on the structure of the course or the course itself or how things work in this group, anything at all that you want to ask me? Just to show you who I am, so you know that I am actually a real person. That's me. I'm sorry, it's the end of the day. Otherwise, normally I look a little bit fresher at the start of the day, but I made a bit of an effort. So this is what I look like. You are talking to a real person and not a robot. Okay, so the other thing I do want to stress is if you have any questions, if you have any concerns at all, please just email me. That is my email address, alalawet. If you go to VC Learn and you go all the way down to contact the online tutor, you can also do that. But using my email is probably the easiest and the fastest way to get hold of me. So if during the week you come up with anything that you want to ask or double check, that I am not 100% sure of. You would have to ask IT. So if you have contact information for IT. Yes, I believe that is a bit of a problem. So it's both of you are registered for 2 courses. So I am going to email Ellie about that as soon as we're finished here. What will probably happen is Ellie will just tell you which one to attend and which one to ignore. Okay. I have a feeling they're going to tell you to stay here because they're going to let me mark your stuff, but we'll get feedback to you. In the meantime, you're working through the exact same stuff. So it shouldn't be any problem, and we'll just tell you which one to submit all of your assessments under. Okay, so I have 4 more minutes. So I just want to very, very quickly run through this, and then I'm going to let you go. So Introduction to Communication Theory. So this is Learning Unit 1. That's just something to get you thinking. That's an example that we're going to use and come back to just as a way for you to check your understanding. So this is the definition of communication. Communication is functional, dynamic, and transactional process where the participants strive to create and share meaning through the exchange of symbols, which all sounds very complicated until you break it down into the 7 major points of communication. So the 7 points, the first is that communication is functional, second is dynamic, transactional, involving participants, creation and sharing of meaning, exchange of symbols is a process. And we've broken that down a bit further. So what does it mean that it's functional? It has a use. So if someone says it's functional, what is the purpose of the communication? At the end of the communication, you can say, was it functional? That means, did it achieve what the person intended it to achieve? If the answer is yes, it was functional. So if you want to ask if you can submit your assignment early, and I say, yes, you can submit it anytime. And you walk away knowing that you can submit your assignment tomorrow instead of having to wait for the 5th of May, then that was functional because your purpose was to know, can I submit my assignment early? You walked away with that information. Okay, so it changes. It's transactional, means there is an exchange, involves participants. That does what it says on the box. Creation and sharing of meaning. Okay, so the example I use is, just try your best or work hard. Now, what does work hard mean to me? What does it mean to you? Are we on the same page? Exchange of symbols, that's anything we use to communicate. The most obvious one and the most prolific one is, of course, words, but anything else, gestures, expressions, emojis, graphs, anything, is a process. That means there is a back and forth, there's feedback. So then what you can do is you can look at that and you can now try and answer these questions. Can you identify the 7 points of communication? Can you think of another example of communication and identify the 7 points of communication? So you just go back there and you read that and you can answer those questions. Then we have the 9 components. So these are the parts of communication. When we say what is communication made up of, so the 7 points are sort of the theory of communication. What is communication what is the nature of communication? Whereas the 9 parts or the 9 components, what is it that communication is made up of? Okay, so it's made up of a sender, a receiver, a message, a medium, a channel, feedback, noise, context, and results. So we have some more detail here about the participant as a sender. That means that's the initiator, responsible for encoding. That is the one that decides which symbols will be used. The receiver interprets or decodes the message. The message is what is being said. The medium, how the message is sent. The channel is the direction. Now, channel, I am aware I'm a minute over. So anytime you guys need to drop off, I absolutely understand. I'm not going to take more than 2 minutes, but I do understand it has been a long day and a long session. So I just want to quickly read this. You guys all know about organograms. So the sort of the hierarchy, when we put it into when we sort of show who reports to who, we normally put titles, we don't put main boss, middle boss, etc. Okay, sorry, but you get the idea. So when we talk about a channel, we talk about, is the information going up the hierarchy, down the hierarchy, or, you know, sideways along the hierarchy? So if the CEO, let's just move that out the way, there we go. So if the CEO sends a message to the main boss, that is, the information is moving downwards. If the main boss sends a message, main boss 1 sends a message to main boss 2, that is horizontal or sideways channel. If middle boss 3 sends a message to main boss 2, that information is moving upwards. So mini boss 1 sends a message to middle boss 1. That information flows up. Middle boss 1 sends the information to middle boss 2. That's sideways. Middle boss 2 sends the information to main boss 1. That's upwards. Main boss 1 sends the message to middle boss 2. That's downwards. So that is what we talk about when we talk about the flow of information. The channel is it going up, down, or sideways? So that's going to impact how you structure your message. So that comes into play later. Then feedback, so the responses you are getting, and there are some more notes on communication. And some more notes. That's your example again. Can you identify the 9 components? And then these are the barriers to effective communication. I apologize, I'm going to sort that out for my YouTube video I do for you. And then some more barriers to communication. So for more in-depth look at all of that, we have the videos on YouTube. But that is what you're going to be doing for the Learning Unit 1, Theme 1. And then we move on to communication models. So with the communication models, we're focusing primarily on just, is it linear? So a communication model is essentially when we take the parts of communication and we use it to essentially draw what communication looks like. So you don't need to know the names of the models, but who says what through which medium to the receiver and with what effect. Okay, so those are the communication models. 2 type communication models. 2 type linear, which means it's in a straight line, so it's just the sender sends a message to the receiver and that's where it ends. And then you get convergent models where it's basically a circle. The sender sends a message to the receiver decodes it, understands it, and then sends a message back to the initial person. So essentially it's a back and forth communication. We will have a video on that as well. Then there is nonverbal communication, pretty straightforward. It's just sort of being aware of what nonverbal communication is and sort of how do you deal with it in the workplace and what you need to be very aware of. And then interpersonal communication, that's what you are going to be working on. That's essentially what you're working on this week, is why is it important to be able to communicate well with people? What's a dyad, by the way, is 2 people talking. So what sort of things do you bear in mind when you are looking at, when you're talking to one person one-on-one? How do you do it? What are some of the key roles and rules? So how do you communicate effectively? Then assertiveness versus aggression. So essentially, don't confuse being assertive for being aggressive. The importance of making clear statements and perceptions of feelings. Active listening. versus passive listening, so active listening, how to actively listen in the workplace, technique, so how to actually do it, barriers to active listening, and how to be heard. So that's this week's work. Okay. And last man standing, do you have any questions?
I do not at the moment, thank you.
Okay, great. I'm sorry, I know this has been just throwing information and sort of a barrage of words and information. It's really just the first one that is like this. From now on, it's much easier and much more interactive.
Okay, good.